Imagine this, just 60 seconds ago, a single sheet of paper signed in cold ink by Prince William erased decades of King Charles's most personal legacy. Queen Camilla, once elevated to Her Majesty by the man who defied the world for her, now stands titleless, humiliated, and cast aside. This isn't rumor. This is the monarchy's nuclear detonation. What dark secrets forced William's hand? Stay locked in because the truth is uglier than anyone imagined. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Picture the scene unfolding in real time. A courier, face impassive, strides through the hushed corridors of Clarence House carrying a sealed envelope, marked with the Prince of Wales's crest. The door to Camilla's private apartments opens just enough for the handover. She accepts it without a word, but the moment the paper touches her fingers, something shifts. Her expression freezes. Color drains from her cheeks as if the life has been sucked from the room itself. She tears the envelope open, eyes scanning lines that grow heavier with every word. This is no ordinary correspondence. This is annihilation delivered by courier. The document itself is stark in its brutality. In formal language laced with ancient authority, Prince William exercises a rarely invoked prerogative, one that reaches back through centuries of royal precedent to strip away every title and honor that King Charles III had personally conferred upon his wife. Queen Camilla. Queen Consort, the upgrades painstakingly fought for and granted in the wake of ascension. Honorary colonelcies, patronages, military ranks that symbolized integration into the institution she had long circled, but never fully entered. Even the subtle nods in official records, the quiet acknowledgments of her place beside the sovereign, all erased in a single stroke of pen. No fanfare, no public consultation, just cold, irrevocable deletion. Her hands tremble as she holds the pages. The woman who once stood defiant in the face of public scorn now fights to hold back tears that threaten to betray her completely. Loyalty that she believed unbreakable crumbles in that instant. Betrayal isn't just personal, it's institutional, carved into the very hierarchy she thought she had mastered. She reads William's handwritten note attached to the decree, the words sharp and unyielding. For the crown's survival, some sacrifices must be absolute. Those 9 words land like a verdict. No apology, no explanation beyond necessity, only the chilling certainty of a man who has weighed love, legacy, and duty and chosen the throne over everything else. In the signing room hours earlier, William's jaw had clenched so tightly the muscle twitched. Duty pulled one way, the ghost of his mother's pain another. The conflict was etched into every line of his face as he pressed the pen to paper. He knew what this would unleash. Yet he signed anyway. Whispers already circulate through palace corridors and trusted aides. This wasn't born from sudden anger. It ties directly to Camilla's influence during Charles's final fragile months. Questions about medical decisions made in shadowed rooms. Hidden alliances formed when vulnerability opened dangerous doors. Secrets that William uncovered too late to prevent, but not too late to punish. This single document is far more than retribution for past sins. It is the first detonation in a war that has simmered beneath the surface for decades. The palace walls, so carefully maintained, are cracking. And as the ink dries on William's signature, those cracks spread, revealing a vendetta that traces all the way back to one woman who was never meant to wear the crown. That woman is Camilla Shand, the one constant in Charles's life who became the fracture that never healed. Charles risked everything: his marriage, his children's innocence, the throne's untarnished image for her. He loved her fiercely, obsessively, in a way that defied protocol and public expectation. When he finally ascended, he refused to let that love remain hidden in the shadows any longer. Against the advice of courtiers, against the weight of tradition, he pushed for her to be named Queen, not merely consort. Queen, a title loaded with symbolism, a deliberate rewriting of history that placed her at the heart of the institution Diana had once embodied. He called it justice. He called it love. To William, it looked like erasure. As a boy, William had watched his mother unravel under the strain of that same love. He saw the tears Diana tried to hide, heard the late-night arguments echoing through Kensington Palace, felt the quiet devastation when the other woman became impossible to ignore. Those memories never faded. They hardened into something colder, more resolute. While Charles celebrated his union, William carried the wound silently, year after year. Camilla's rise felt like salt pressed into an old scar every new honor, every public appearance beside his father. Another reminder that his mother's place had been overwritten. When Charles fell ill, that quiet resentment began to stir. Camilla was always there, always advising, always close, too close. The forbidden romance that once seemed romantic now appeared calculated. Charles defied the world for her, but William began to question whether she had ever truly reciprocated, or whether she had simply waited for the crown to come within reach. Letters surfaced, private conversations overheard, moments that painted a different picture. Camilla urging treatments, shaping schedules, positioning herself as indispensable during Charles's decline. To William, it crossed a line from devotion into manipulation. Love had broken a kingdom once before. Now it threatened to break it again. And this time, William refused to stand by. But the real spark wasn't just old grief. It was something far more concrete, far more damning files locked away in Charles's private safe that William discovered only after the funeral. What he found inside changed everything, turning suspicion into certainty and grief into cold fury. The vendetta had roots. Yes, but those roots were tangled in secrets no one saw coming. That woman is Camilla Shand, the one constant in Charles's life who became the fracture that never healed. Charles risked everything: his marriage, his children's hearts, the throne's dignity for Camilla. He crowned her queen against centuries of tradition. Yet in one brutal stroke, his own son undid it all. Was this justice or revenge? Dive into the forbidden romance that poisoned the bloodline forever, and the moment William decided love wasn't enough to save the monarchy. It began in stolen glances and secret meetings long before the world knew their names together. Young Charles, restless and romantic, found in Camilla a spark no one else could match. They laughed in hidden corners, exchanged letters that burned with longing, built a world that existed only when the palace lights dimmed. Those moments felt innocent, once two people caught in something bigger than duty. But innocence died fast. Diana entered the picture, radiant and fragile, chosen for the role Camilla could never claim publicly. The marriage was celebrated. The affair continued in shadows. Grainy photographs caught Diana alone on palace steps, eyes hollow, while Charles slipped away to places where Camilla waited. The contrast was cruel. One woman crowned in public, the other loved in private. William was only a child when the truth began to seep through the cracks. He heard the hushed arguments, saw his mother retreat to her room with red-rimmed eyes, clutching tissues like lifelines. The other woman, Diana, would whisper sometimes, voice breaking on the words. Those nights planted something deep and permanent in the boy who would one day be king. Resentment took root quietly. It grew with every forced smile at public events, every headline that praised Charles and Camilla's enduring bond while Diana faded further into sorrow. William learned early that love could wound more deeply than hate. When Charles finally ascended, the old promises resurfaced with force. Advisors begged restraint. Tradition screamed caution. Yet Charles pushed forward, determined to make Camilla queen, not consort, not secondary, but queen in full title and honor. He spoke of it as redemption, as the right thing for a love that had endured decades of denial. To him, it was closure. To William, it felt like obliteration. Camilla stepped into the light she had waited for, her presence now official, her voice now heard in rooms where Diana's echo still lingered. At private dinners, she sat close, offering counsel in low tones that shaped decisions large and small. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she reshaped the court around her. Loyalists multiplied. Old guard members retired or were sidelined. Power shifted in whispers. William watched it all from a distance that grew colder each year. He saw his mother's legacy, her compassion, her vulnerability, her place in the people's hearts erased inch by inch. Camilla's influence became a quiet takeover. She was always there during Charles's illness, always the one at his bedside, always the one whose opinion carried weight when others were excluded. Letters began to surface later, private notes that revealed her hand in delicate matters of health and schedule. She pushed for appearances that projected strength, delayed announcements that might have invited pity, steered the narrative with a precision that alarmed those who read between the lines. To William, it no longer looked like devotion. It looked like control. The conflict tore at him in silence. He loved his father deeply, painfully, but that love clashed with a fiercer instinct to protect what remained of the family's honor and his mother's memory. In quiet conversations with trusted aides, he finally spoke the words that had simmered for years. "I loved my father, but I will not let her rewrite our history." The confession hung heavy. A line crossed. Love, once the force that bound Charles to Camilla, now became the shadow that exposed every hidden motive. Because beneath the romance and the titles lay something far darker: secrets, preserved in Charles's own hand, locked away where only grief could find them. But love's shadow hides darker motives because the real trigger wasn't just old wounds, it was a chilling discovery in Charles's private papers that changed everything. But love's shadow hides darker motives because the real trigger wasn't just old wounds. It was a chilling discovery in Charles's private papers that changed everything. Buried in Charles's private safe, files no one was meant to see. Medical logs, whispered recordings, correspondence that painted Camilla not as devoted wife, but as architect of influence during the king's darkest hours. When William unlocked that safe, he didn't find grief, he found evidence. This section exposes the health manipulation scandal that made revocation inevitable. Viewer discretion. The betrayal runs deep. The moment came late one night, after the funeral flowers had wilted and the palace had fallen into an uneasy hush. William stood alone in his father's study, the weight of succession pressing down harder than ever. A small, unremarkable safe sat beneath the desk, its combination known only to Charles and now, by default, to the son who inherited everything. The lock clicked open with a sound that felt too loud in the silence. Inside lay folders bound in plain leather, labeled simply "Personal Eyes Only." No flourish, no warning. Just the quiet promise of secrets too dangerous for daylight. He opened the first file with hands that did not shake yet. Medical reports stared back at him. Timelines that had once seemed natural now appeared suspiciously edited. Dates shifted. Treatments delayed. Recommendations overridden. Notes in the margins, in Camilla's unmistakable hand, suggested adjustments that aligned perfectly with public appearances Charles needed to make to project strength. Strength that bought time. Time that solidified her position as the indispensable companion at his side. The alterations were subtle, professional almost, but unmistakable once seen. Camilla had not merely comforted. She had steered. She had shaped the narrative of decline itself. Then came the recordings. Grainy audio transcripts clipped to the pages. Camilla's voice, calm and measured, speaking to a senior physician in a late-hour call, "His Majesty must appear stronger. For the realm. We cannot afford weakness now." The words hung there, clinical yet commanding, not pleading, not grieving, directing. Another fragment captured her pressing for a reduced dosage schedule, arguing it would allow Charles to attend key events without visible fatigue. The doctor's hesitant agreement followed. William listened once. Then again. Each replay carved deeper. This was no loving spouse fighting for her husband's life. This was strategy, positioning, power consolidated in the shadow of mortality. He whispered into the empty room, voice cracking for the first time that night, "She played us all." The emotional fracture hit hard and fast. Grief twisted into something sharper, rage laced with disbelief. His father had trusted her completely, defended her in handwritten notes tucked among the files. Camilla knows best, Charles had scrawled on one page. "She sees what I cannot." Blind devotion laid bare. Love so absolute it blinded him to manipulation wearing the mask of care. William felt the contrast like a physical blow. The man who had risked a kingdom for passion had been steered toward its end by the same woman he exalted. The revelations kept coming, each one tightening the noose. Financial records surfaced, next transfers routed through discreet trusts, benefiting individuals close to Camilla's inner circle. Payments timed with Charles's most vulnerable periods. Advisory roles granted quietly. Assets shifted under the guise of estate planning. None of it illegal on paper. All of it calculated. Every move designed to secure influence long after the crown passed. William traced the threads and saw a pattern too precise to dismiss as coincidence. One final file lay at the bottom, thinner than the rest, unmarked except for a single red tab. He hesitated before opening it. Inside, a single memorandum referenced contingency measures and named figures far beyond the palace walls. Hints of alliances that reached into politics, media, even foreign interests. Secrets that could unravel more than titles, reputations, institutions, perhaps the monarchy itself. The document stopped short of full disclosure, as if Charles had begun to suspect but never fully confronted the truth. With proof in hand, William didn't hesitate, but the execution of that document unleashed chaos that even he couldn't predict. Starting with the woman who refused to fade quietly. With proof in hand, William didn't hesitate, but the execution of that document unleashed chaos that even he couldn't predict. Starting with the woman who refused to fade quietly. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. When the document arrived, Queen Camilla, now just Camilla, stared down the messenger and uttered 4 words that froze the palace: "This isn't over." What followed was a masterclass in royal defiance and a desperate bid to claw back power. Witness the raw fury of a woman stripped bare. The messenger barely had time to bow before she turned away, the envelope still clutched in her fist like a weapon. She marched straight to the inner office, heels striking marble with deliberate force. The door closed behind her with a soft click that echoed louder than any slam. Inside, aides waited, already sensing the storm. Her voice cut through the room, low and lethal. "Get my lawyers. Now." No tremor, no hesitation, only steel. Within minutes, phones were lifted, discrete numbers dialed, the machinery of survival kicking into gear. She would not vanish without a fight. Later, when the aides had scattered and the corridors emptied, she allowed herself the luxury of solitude. The door locked, the lights dimmed. She crossed to the mantel where a silver-framed photograph stood her and Charles on their wedding day, both smiling as if the world had finally bent to their will. She lifted it slowly, almost tenderly. Then, with sudden violence, she hurled it across the room. Glass shattered against stone. Shards scattered like broken promises. Tears came then, hot and furious, mixing with the rage that had kept her upright. She sank to her knees amid the fragments, breathing hard, fists clenched until nails bit into palms. The woman who had waited decades for her moment now faced erasure. And she hated it, hated him for daring it, hated the institution that let him, but hate sharpened her mind. She rose, brushed the glass from her skirt, and reached for the secure line. Calls went out in the dead of night to old friends in the city, to discreet barristers who specialized in constitutional gray areas, to loyalists who still owed her favors. She probed every angle. Ancient statutes, precedents buried in dusty law books, loopholes in the letters patent that might render William's prerogative invalid if challenged properly. She listened, questioned, directed. Each conversation built the scaffolding of a counterattack. She would not beg in public. She would dismantle in private. The next morning she appeared at a long-scheduled charity engagement. The cameras caught her smile, polished, practiced, perfect. She waved. She spoke warmly of the cause. Yet those who knew her best saw the truth in her eyes, molten anger barely contained, a volcano wearing silk gloves. The public facade held. Barely. Inside, the coronation vows replayed in her mind like torture promises of unity, of duty shared, now mocked by the very son who should have honored them. The contrast burned. She had stood beside Charles as his equal. Now she was reduced to a footnote he could erase. The humiliation fueled her. It did not break her. Whispers began to circulate almost immediately. Palace insiders spoke in hushed tones of her next move. A carefully curated leak of her own version of events. Documents. Recordings. A narrative that painted William not as protector of the crown, but as a son consumed by vendetta, willing to sacrifice family for control. She let the rumors spread just enough to unsettle, enough to remind everyone she still held cards. Then came the unexpected. A message arrived through the most secure channel possible, no name, no signature, only coordinates for a dead drop and a single line, "I have what you need on the prince." A mysterious ally had stepped from the shadows. Someone with access. Someone with dirt. Dirt that could turn William's victory into his undoing. Camilla's fight back ignited allies and enemies alike, but none more explosive than the one person who could destroy William's victory from within. His own brother. Camilla's fight back ignited allies and enemies alike, but none more explosive than the one person who could destroy William's victory from within. His own brother. Exiled, wounded, watching from California, Prince Harry receives the news and smiles for the first time in years. Finally, he reportedly texts a confidant. But this isn't just schadenfreude. Harry's fingerprints are all over the escalation, feeding intel that tipped William's hand. The brothers' war reignites, and Camilla becomes the collateral damage that could reunite or annihilate them forever. Across an ocean, in a sunlit Montecito home far removed from Palace Stone, Harry leaned back in his chair as the notification flashed across his phone. The headline was terse, brutal, undeniable. Camilla stripped of every title Charles had given her. One document, one signature. Williams. Harry's first reaction was quiet, almost reverent. A slow smile spread across his face, not triumphant, not cruel, but deeply satisfied. He set the phone down and called Megan on video. Her image appeared, eyes already bright with understanding. They spoke in low voices, words measured yet charged with something electric. Celebration simmered beneath the surface, but calculation ran deeper. This wasn't random fortune. This was consequence. And Harry had helped shape it. Leaked messages would later surface in encrypted exchanges with trusted former palace staff, old friends who had never forgiven the institution's treatment of Diana. Harry had asked pointed questions years earlier. He had requested documents, timelines, private notes from Charles's final months. Not for publication. Not yet. For leverage. For truth. Those fragments, pieced together, painted the picture William eventually saw in the safe. Influence that bordered on control, decisions steered when Charles was weakest. Harry hadn't forced William's hand, he had simply left the door ajar. When the moment came, the evidence flowed straight to the air. Harry knew it would. He had counted on it. Beneath the strategy lay something raw. Pain that had never healed. Harry still carried Diana's ghost like a second heartbeat. Every headline praising Camilla as queen had felt like another erasure of his mother. Every honor bestowed on the woman Diana called the third person had reopened the wound. Now watching titles vanish one by one, Harry felt the scales tip toward justice. Not vengeance. Justice. A long-delayed acknowledgement that the love story Charles sold to the world had cost his boys everything. The contrast was stark. Brothers who once shared secrets under Kensington Palace blankets, now divided by a woman whose rise had split their family in two. Back in London, William's world tightened. Whispers reached him, Harry's name attached to the leaks, Harry's contacts cited in the files. Paranoia took root fast. He ordered discreet surveillance on Montecito, movements tracked, communications monitored through back channels. Not out of fear alone, but necessity. If Harry spoke publicly now, the narrative could flip. William's decisive act of protection might suddenly look like fratricidal power grab. The air felt the ground shift beneath him. Trust, already fragile, cracked further. Harry weighed his next move in silence. A public statement hovered on the edge of possibility, words that could either endorse William's purge as overdue cleansing or condemn it as ruthless overreach. He drafted versions in his mind. One offered olive branch. Another sharpened the knife. The choice loomed, heavy with finality. Memories flooded in unbidden. Two small boys racing through gardens, laughing until breathless, united against the world. Now those same brothers circled each other across continents, bound by blood yet torn by legacy. Camilla's fall had become the fault line. Her stripping exposed old fractures, widened them, threatened to swallow everything. And as the distance between them grew colder, a proposal surfaced through intermediaries, a secret meeting. Face to face, no cameras, no aides. Reconciliation, or the setting for betrayal's final act? As brothers circle each other like wolves, the real power broker steps forward. Catherine, the princess who waited in silence. Until now, as brothers circle each other like wolves, the real power broker steps forward. Catherine, the princess who waited in silence. Until now. She smiled through every insult, every slight. But when William signed that document, Catherine was already 3 steps ahead. The future queen didn't just support the stripping, she orchestrated the perfect moment. This is the untold story of how the Princess of Wales turned quiet grace into lethal precision and claimed the throne's soul. For years she had played the perfect part, poised, warm, uncomplaining. She absorbed the barbs aimed at her husband, the sidelong glances that questioned her place, the quiet comparisons that always favored someone else. Through it all she remained composed, her smile a shield so flawless few noticed the steel beneath. But composure is not weakness, it is preparation. In the shadowed hours after Charles's death, when grief still choked the air, Catherine began to move. Late-night conversations with William stretched into dawn. Her voice, soft yet unyielding, laid out the case. Not with anger, with clarity. Camilla's influence had not ended with Charles's last breath. It lingered in the court, in the staff, in the stories still told. If left unchecked, it would seep into the next generation. Catherine spoke of legacy, of protection, of what their children deserved. Each word nudged William closer to the edge he already stood on. She did not command. She guided. And he listened. Her deepest drive burned personal and fierce. She saw her sons and daughter growing up in the same fractured palace where Diana's shadow had once walked. Camilla's titles, Camilla's honors, Camilla's rewritten history, they carried a silent threat, a legacy of division, a reminder that loyalty could be bought, reshaped, discarded. Catherine refused to let that poison touch her family. Every late-night strategy session circled back to one truth: this was not revenge. This was safeguarding. The children would never know the uncertainty Diana endured. They would inherit strength, not scars. Timing became her weapon. She studied the calendar like a general, public mood, media cycles, moments of national vulnerability. She waited for the precise window when sympathy would flow toward William, the grieving son stepping up, rather than toward the widow left behind. The document was not rushed. It was timed, released when grief still softened hearts and outrage had not yet hardened into opposition. Catherine understood narrative better than most. She knew perception could be shaped long before facts landed. Her fingerprints were invisible yet everywhere. The cancer battle had forged her in fire no one fully saw. Days of quiet terror, treatments that drained her, nights when fear whispered she might not see her children grow. She emerged changed. Not broken. Tempered. Unbreakable. That same resolve now turned outward. She felt the guilt sharp, fleeting when she thought of Charles. He had loved Camilla. He had believed in her. Yet Catherine pushed the guilt aside. Protecting the monarchy meant protecting its future from the very flaws that had nearly destroyed it. Certainty won. The institution would survive only if cleansed of what weakened it. Even now she worked in shadows. Subtle signals to trusted journalists. A well-placed comment here. A quiet briefing there. The story began to tilt before the ink dried. William as protector, Catherine as steady anchor. The monarchy as renewed, rather than diminished. She shaped the tide while others watched it rise. With Catherine's hand guiding the knife, the palace trembled, but the nation's reaction would decide if this was salvation or regicide. With Catherine's hand guiding the knife, the palace trembled, but the nation's reaction would decide if this was salvation or regicide. The internet ignites. #Justice for Camilla versus #Crown First trends worldwide. Crowds gather at Buckingham Palace, some cheering William's boldness, others wailing for the woman they saw as queen. Polls swing wildly. This isn't just a title revocation, it's civil war for the monarchy's heart. See how one document divided a nation overnight. Within minutes of the first leak, the digital storm erupted. Clips flooded every feed, grainy footage of Camilla at Charles's side during his final public moments. Her hand steady on his arm, contrasted sharply with William's terse palace statement read by a stone-faced spokesperson. Side-by-side edits went viral in seconds, heartwarming montages of the enduring love story crashing against stark headlines of William's purge. Hashtags battled for dominance. Older users flooded timelines with memories of Charles and Camilla's quiet resilience, pleading for compassion, while younger voices roared approval for a monarchy finally cleansed of outdated drama. The split cut deep and fast. Families argued over dinner tables. Strangers clashed in comment sections. Loyalty fractured along generational lines no one had predicted. Outside the palace gates, crowds swelled by the hour. Supporters waved Union Jacks and chanted William's name, hailing him as the guardian who dared to act. Across the barriers, others held handmade signs bearing Camilla's image, tears streaming as they called her the rightful queen, the woman who had waited and suffered, and finally been recognized only to be discarded. Police lines held firm, but the air crackled with raw emotion. Strangers embraced and shared grief or fury. One elderly woman, voice breaking on live television, whispered that she had cried for Diana once and now cried again, this time for the love that had survived everything until it didn't. A young student nearby shouted back that the crown must evolve or die. The division was visceral, personal, impossible to ignore. Media outlets fed the frenzy without mercy. Tabloids screamed betrayal in 72-point type, splashing Camilla's stricken face beside headlines that accused William of cold cruelty. Broadsheets took the higher ground, long analyses debating the constitutional limits of royal prerogative, questioning whether an heir could unilaterally rewrite a predecessor's legacy. Pundits filled screens around the clock, some defending the move as necessary modernization, others warning of irreversible damage to an institution already fragile. Every interview carried tears or trembling voices. Royal watchers who had followed the family for decades sat before cameras, divided loyalties tearing them apart, confessing they no longer knew where their allegiance belonged. William watched it all alone in a private sitting room, screens glowing in the dim light. The cheers outside his window clashed with the wails. He scrolled through the storm in silence, each new post landing like a fresh wound. Doubt crept in despite his certainty. Had he miscalculated? Had the purge gone too far? Too fast? The man who signed the document with iron resolve now felt the weight of a nation questioning his judgment. Isolation pressed heavier than ever. Then came the twist no one expected. Whispers from inside sources began to circulate. The document's contents had not been hacked or stolen. It had been leaked deliberately. Someone perhaps on William's own team had ensured the world saw every line, every revocation, every damning word. Not to sabotage, to test, to gauge loyalty in real time, to see whether the public would rally behind a decisive crown or fracture beyond repair. The revelation hung like smoke, thickening the chaos. As the world roars, one final secret remains locked in William's mind: the true cost he paid to sign that paper. And what comes next will redefine the throne forever. As the world roars, one final secret remains locked in William's mind: the true cost he paid to sign that paper, and what comes next will redefine the throne forever. The document is done. Camilla is titleless. But the monarchy stands at a crossroads. Will William's ruthless act purify the institution, or doom it? From palace purges to Catherine's ascension, this is the shocking new era dawning. And one haunting question lingers. Was this justice, or the beginning of the end? The final revelations will leave you speechless. Camilla vanished from public view almost immediately. No farewell statement, no defiant wave from a balcony. She retreated to a quiet estate far from London, curtains drawn, gates locked. Rumors swirled like smoke: exile in some distant corner of the Commonwealth. A long legal challenge brewing behind closed doors. Perhaps even a memoir already half-written in furious longhand. Whatever path she chose, the silence was deafening. The woman who had once commanded headlines with every step now existed only in echoes. Her absence felt heavier than her presence ever had. The palace corridors, once alive with her measured footsteps, grew still. Staff spoke in lowered voices. Some mourned the loss of her steady hand, others breathed relief. Either way, the space she left refused to fill cleanly. William carried the heaviest load alone. Nights stretched endless. He paced rooms that once belonged to his father, unable to sleep, drawn again and again to a small portrait of Diana that had never left his private study. Her eyes followed him gentle, knowing, questioning. He stood before it for hours, searching for answers she could no longer give. The man who had acted with such certainty now wrestled doubt in the dark. Every cheer from the crowds outside felt hollow. Every critical headline landed like a personal accusation. He had protected the crown, or so he told himself, yet the price kept rising. Sleeplessness carved lines into his face. The burden of kingship had always loomed, but this one choice had made it personal, intimate, irreversible. Catherine stepped forward into the light William could no longer fully bear. Her role shifted quietly at first, subtle enhancements to her titles whispered through official channels, announcements phrased with careful elegance. The public responded with a surge of warmth that surprised even the most seasoned courtiers. Adoration flowed toward her in waves. She became the steady heartbeat of a monarchy desperate for renewal. Where Camilla had once symbolized division, Catherine now embodied quiet strength, continuity, hope. She moved through engagements with the same grace she had always shown, but now the world saw purpose behind every gesture. The future queen no longer waited. She led. Yet the scars ran deep and would not fade quickly. The monarchy emerged cleaner on the surface, freed from old entanglements, stripped of lingering controversy but colder too. More distant. The warmth that once softened its edges had vanished. Public trust, already fragile, now balanced on a knife's edge. People cheered the modernization one day and whispered about irrelevance the next. The institution stood taller, yet somehow smaller, untouched by scandal, yet somehow less human. In the end, William found his way to the one reckoning he could not avoid. Late one evening he returned to his father's old study. The safe stood open, empty now except for memories. He sat at the desk, pulled a single sheet of paper toward him, and wrote. Not a decree, not an order. A private apology to Charles, to the love that had defined him, to the choices that had shaped them all. The words came slowly, painfully. When he finished, he folded the note, placed it beneath the portrait of Diana, and let the tears fall at last. They were not tears of regret alone. They were release, acceptance. The final surrender to a truth he had fought so hard to control. And then the whisper of one last twist reached the surface. Hidden within the document itself, buried in legal phrasing so dense it escaped notice at first, lay a codicil. A single clause, deliberately obscure. It suggested Camilla retained one final, secret honor, perhaps a lifetime courtesy title, perhaps something deeper, more symbolic. Or perhaps it was a mirage, a deliberate ambiguity planted to keep her in check without full erasure. No one outside the innermost circle knew for certain. The uncertainty lingered like a shadow over every announcement that followed. What happens next remains unwritten. The throne has been redefined, but its story refuses to end. The crown endures changed, scarred, watchful. The battle for its soul continues behind closed doors, in quiet conversations, in the choices yet to come. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.